Excellent. Welcome to another episode of Starseed Activations. Welcome, everybody. So tonight we're going to start off. We have a bunch of questions coming. Anybody who's on Facebook, if you guys can just give me a thumbs up or drop a comment so I could see, just to let me know that you guys can see the video okay. And welcome, everyone, for joining us. So the first question that we're going to be addressing tonight is about the memory complex. Jill, can you see me? You can totally see me. Wonderful. Hopefully you can. Okay, so the memory complex and releasing trapped emotions. This is the very first thing. All of our emotions, we know that they are stored inside the physical body. However, we have a memory grid complex that is inside of our body, which is more in the energetic. It is your thought grid as well as your emotion grid. Both of these two grids, they intertwine one another and they make one grid that is an icosahedron in its nature. That's the shape. And so when we start to look at the personality grid, it's kind of like a grid that surrounds a physical body where all of your memories are energetically stored. This is how we start to see memory grid abilities becoming aware or activated amongst the star seeds. Because if all your memories are in the memory grid complex and somebody could walk up to you or even do it telepathically or psionically from a remote location, they can actually start to tune into your energetic grids, and then they can start to pull your memories. Now, many times the process of re-encoding the memory grid we can do on our own, or other people can actually do this to us. Now, of course, we only want to do positive affirmations, things like that, of a positive light, because we are the star seeds. We are here to do this type of work in a love and light based frequency range. Now, when we start to recode the memory grid complex, the easiest way to do it is to pull at a memory that's already there. And so let's say, for an example, you have a memory of, let's say, your grandmother baking chocolate chip cookies on Christmas. And so now let's say we wanted to re-encode the memory grid complex to make it. Hold on one second. Let me just wave to Crystal. Okay. Let's say for 1 second that we wanted to re-encode your memory grid complex to include certain information. So the primary individual who we would be doing the re-encoding to, we want to try and get them to laugh. And so whenever they jump for joy or they're excited, that's one method of doing it. Or two, if you can get them in a slight hypnotic trance, that's going to help as well. Now, there's many different reasons why we would want to reprogram the memory grid complex. So some traumas are so incredibly dense that it's to the point where it can make the person seem or be perceived as sick. And so when we start to go inside the memories, we start to re-encode them. Now, this is also being used by the dark forces, and it is being used in multiple streams, the star people are saying. However, the second that we become consciously aware of it, we can start to utilize the technology for positive things for ourselves. So we always want to focus on the self first, because whenever we change our frequencies, it allows our frequency to radiate out and it changes the holographic simulation around us. So all changes start in the internal circumstances. So whatever memory each and every one of you guys want to reprogram, we want to dive into that memory grid and we want to start to tug at the memory. Now, while you are visualizing that memory, try and re-encode the memory with different items. And so let's say it was Christmas cookies. Let's say there was a pot roast. And now all of a sudden visualize the pot roast. Think about the pot roast. Smell the pot roast. As much information that you can project or cast into your memory grid complex, the better. This is also how we go into the past and we start to reprogram our own timeline that we're sitting on. So this is very important, because just imagine for 1 second that our actual potential is giving us this multidimensional nature in which we can go inside of ourselves, we can go into our memories, we can reprogram them. And when we open our eyes from that meditation, we have changed the simulation as we see it, because we have technically changed the history. This is how this works. Now, we know by the Mandela effect that every single one of us is experiencing our own current realities. And so your reality looks totally different than mine. Now, when we take multiple people in a group and we start to divide them up, everyone has their own history. So history must always be written by at least 12 in order to get the full picture of what actually happened in that moment in time and space. So it takes 12 perceptions in order to fully form the picture, which is another reason why certain ancient texts were written under 12 people's perceptions, but there's actually more than that, because when you advance it and do 24, it's even more intricate. So we also have a look at the 12 zodiac symbols, or that we use in this reality. So we can kind of see it stacked or reflected, because all these different things are just reflections of the frequency that's coming back from inside yourself. Yes, I'm back on YouTube. There was no reason for any of that to happen where the internet shut off. So it was just a wild thing. Like the customer service guy was like, he's never seen it before. So it's always divine alignment whenever things happen. So it's okay. We laugh at it, we roll with it, and then we do it again, right? And we keep trying. And that's the most important thing. When I first started making videos, we had such technical difficulties that, once again, no one has ever seen it happen before. So it's like just total amazement that we didn't stop. I was very persistent back then. I was like, no, I'm going to keep going. And so here we are today. So if anyone has any questions, please feel free, drop them right in the chat box and I will try and get to them. So releasing trapped emotions. Now, this also goes right back into the memory grid complex, because whenever we have a trapped emotion, there's always going to be something in the physical form, because when you emit, to start people correcting my word, I was going to say fire off. They're saying when you emit high intensity emotion, it actually projects through the physical and it hits into the memory grid complex and it stores in the grids. And so when that happens, the distortion is in the physical body, but it's also in the energetics. So you have to clear it by utilizing both the physical as well as the energetics. Now, of course, the way quantum physics works and the way light ions works, we have a light tube inside of us that the higher self ricochets down, and it vibrationally comes out circular. And then when it comes back in, it forms a sacred geometric snowflake that makes up or allows us the perception of the physical reality. Now, this is how this process works. So when we realize that our internal circumstances is changing the frequency, which is changing every single thing around us. Now, the collective consciousness works like this. When we open our eyes, we go outside. You, me, everyone around me, we all collectively co-create the outside world. And so I may see something that only is meant for me because my shades have been removed. So many times we say shades is a density or distortion that overlap the energetics. And so whenever we have that, it doesn't allow us to see what's actually there. Every single person in this reality has started with some type of shade, because the shade allows you to perceive 3D. So length times width times height. That's the 3D world that we vibrationally exist in right now. There's other layers or other dimensional realms which are encoded right on top of this one. However, we just cannot see it. Some people do have their eyes open and they can see it. When you reach a very high level or a high consciousness brick, then your eyes are going to start to open and you are going to start to see things that you would not have seen if you were very physically focused. That's okay too, because when we start to see through the hologram, that basically means that we've gone through the process of releasing all the density, releasing all the trapped emotions. We've done the shadow work. That doesn't mean you're 100% yet, because when you reach a certain level, something unlocks which allows access into the light realms. So the light realms are more 5D in their nature. However, the light spectrum is completely different. It is not any light or any visible light spectrum that we have ever seen on this earth. That also includes the internet, because the cartoon world is its own light spectrum. You don't see any of that cartoon out in nature. It just doesn't exist there. So we do have two different ranges of the color spectrum that we vibrationally are in this octave. Now, what's happening? Okay. Now, when we understand that, when we start to tune into 5D frequencies, there's something that happens to the internals that actually pulls the light body up and it hits all the way up top. So it's kind of like there's an access gate up there. So you have to have 144 energetic nodes properly attuned in order to make it through that gate. It's kind of like a stargate. So that, just imagine it's like a wall or a brick that's on top of you, and either your light body has to be in alignment to pass through. So we can right now access 5D frequencies. However, most of us get that far, and if there's something in the energetics, it'll cast us right back down into the physical form. It is very important to know that what it feels like to be up there is like hugging an angel. It's like pure love, joy, and bliss, and holding it can be difficult. It's like it's heavenly. That's how it feels. And that's the only way to really describe it, because it feels like there's no pain, there's no suffering, there's none of that stuff. I felt it very briefly, but the star people wanted me to feel it so that I could drop back down into 3D and try and hold it. Now, inside your heart, there's different frequencies that can be encoded into the physical material. So anytime that we've ever seen the monks like do meditations, a lot of times they tune into different light frequency ranges, which then in turn allows them to download through the slipstream, which is above time and space. It goes down into the heart, and then it starts to vibrationally change or modify their physical heart. And so what that looks like is it's a type of crystallization that actually happens to the real physical body. Now, what the star people call that is a Sintamani stone. However, there's also a crystal or a meteorite that is also called the Sintamani stone. So once upon a time, they told me it was my job to encode the Sintamani stone. I thought that they meant a crystal, so I went out and I got one. That's not what they meant. They were like, you have to encode your heart, because the more love that you hold, the more you can tune into the meditation states, and you can start pulling down higher frequencies. It's going to encode your heart, which then in turn reflects out for all of mankind to enjoy. Because when you start pulling in this love or diamond coding, it actually reflects onto all the people, not only the people who witness you online, but the real people in the physical world who are even in your proximity. It starts to have a vibrational effect on all of them. So many times us starseeds, we go through this whole learning curve where we're just like, I don't have a life purpose. Maybe my life purpose is just to know all this knowledge and then let it reflect into the consciousness grids. I thought that for a very long time. That's actually a brick of consciousness that we have to overcome, which is okay too. And so when we finally step in, and it's like, it's okay. I'm perfectly okay with just being who I am and even having all the knowledge, and it is what it is. When you do that, you're actually releasing resistance. That resistance is actually in your energetics. So when you release a resistance, it actually removes density from your aura field, which then in turn allows you to pull new energetics into your energy grids. So this is very important, because this is how we evolve, right? We go through, we do the shadow work. That's a release. We cry, that's a release. We go through the sadness, the hard times, the traumas, the density. We get cut, we bleed, all these things. We're releasing, even blood. I have a post on bloodletting. It's releasing density, it's releasing trauma, it's releasing pain. And so when we release, then all of a sudden it makes us feel lighter, because we can now absorb new solar energetics. The solar energetics do not always have to come from the sun. They can also come directly from your channel, your tube, and we can pull ether directly down into the physical form. Once upon a time, this is how we used to eat. We used to actually pull our energy directly through the top of the head. This is another reason why the infant's skull closes the way it does, leaving a weak spot here. And that's because they are still breathing ether through the top of the head until it becomes solid and they start breathing it through their mouth. So the type of being that we once were a very long time ago is completely shifted. Because we dropped in frequency, we dropped to the 3D realities, which has technically been imposed on humanity. That's okay too. So through this process of learning and doing the shadow work and experiencing the traumas and all of the things that make us human beings, we press. So we pick ourselves up and we keep going, and we find strength in the moments of our trials and tribulations. And that's okay too. And when we do this, and we can still do it by holding love, joy, and excitement in our hearts, even when we're handed a whole mess of a life, right? It makes us very strong inside, because now there's a little piece of you that knows it doesn't matter what the experience is. It doesn't matter what life throws at you. You're going to be able to handle it because you've already walked through your troubles and traumas. So whenever you guys are looking at your life and you're seeing the traumas that you've been through and how much you had to heal, and even if you've done all of this healing and there's still more to go, that's okay too, because it's a journey and it's a baby step process. Now, me personally, I've been healing. I've been hardcore healing since 2019. And I'll even tell you, I'm not done. I'm nowhere near done. And right when I think I'm done, the star people are like, you're not done. Here's more. Right. And so this is just the way it works. It's a whole journey. We just take our time, and we are to have compassion. What star people can tell about a circle with 490-degree angles outside of the circle might be some device for time travel. A circle with four. Okay. Does it look like this? Let me know, Victoria. This is actually a very important symbol. This is encoded into your energetic grid structure down at the subatomic levels. So you'll also notice things like the movies and stuff, and they use a checkerboard pattern. That checkerboard pattern is black and white checkerboards. So it's the duality of the physical reality. That's a circle. Yes. Well, what did she say? Outside of the circle. Yeah, she said a circle. Okay, so you saw it in your dreams. So that's a duality of the physical reality. And there's a lot of information about that symbol too. It's all over a lot of the movies. It is also a manifestation symbol. So you're utilizing the four elementals: earth, air, fire, water. However, think also, because the star people are saying, you personally, he's saying they want you to draw your attention to the center Kundalini channels. The center Kundalini channels, there's air, earth is on the left, air, fire, water's in the back. So those are your four channels, because you have the four lines that are going, and then the four quadrants. And then in the center is your Kundalini channel. So we know that consciousness radiates in circles and squares. So your circle is your magnetic energy. So that primary soul form, your light body, is coming down from the higher self circular. It radiates out circular, and it comes back in, and it starts to vibrate in sacred geometry when it comes back into you. So it's a ripple effect. That's your circular energetics. Now, your masculine energetics, which are squared, those square ones, this is another reason why we put the square on top of the head. When we start to graduate from college, right, you get the circular cap so it fits on the head, but it's a square. And they are putting you technically in a box because they want you to think logically, because your brain waves, all this runs in a square. The second that you start to recognize that there's a sacred geometry pattern to the way your mind and body works, is that you're able to change the circles and the levels of the squares. So what the physical reality actually looks like, it looks like a box cube grid. And so just imagine all the lines with all the little square grids, and then your circles in your heart. And so that circle is picking what reality to be vibrationally in alignment with. So if you change your reality, you're changing over to one of the squares. This has also been in a couple of the movies. I can't think of the name right this second, but it has been displayed even in the Vitruvian Man. There's a man inside of a circle, inside of a square. So people on the planet, they know this information. The levels of consciousness will always be vibrationally in alignment with circles and square. Now, also the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, they also talk about circles and square, because they said you have to travel circularly when you're in the astral realms in order for protection. And so when we travel circularly, we are traveling through the heart. You're not logically trying to think your way out of it. And whenever you're in the astral and you get scared, you are supposed to drop into your heart and just hold that love space. Can you answer Star people how we can create Arcturian temple? They don't. He's shaking his head. Absolutely not. They don't want anyone creating any or worshiping, none of that stuff. Your temples are right here. And actually, if you take the top two fingers, this is a spiritual sign as well. Me and my kids, we've been flashing the peace sign for decades. And ever since they were born, I'm like, throw your 22s. In every picture on my Facebook with my kids, it's always a peace sign. I had no idea it was a spiritual sign. You're supposed to take your hands like this and put them up to your temples because you can feel your heartbeat. And so this is how you circle the square, he's saying right now, because you're telling your heartbeat, and this is close to your thought grid. So your thought grid is what controls that square. And so when you utilize both of them together, you can tell, let's say you have an idea and your heart jumps, you're going to feel it in your fingers. And so that's a way to utilize the intuition as a baby step process. But he's saying that that gift goes deep, because certain times when you're trying to program other people's mental grids, or you're even trying to do any sort of, he's calling it a callback, when you're calling up a memory that both of you guys experienced as one, you use your fingers here, and then your heart rate, he's saying, is going to give an indication, and then you know you're in the right spot of their energetic grid, and then you can summon the information that you were trying to perceive, is what Starman said. I hope that makes sense. I understood it. Okay. Wonderful. Let me see. What else do you guys have? Okay. I think that was it. Okay. Let's see. The personality complex is a 64-bit cube, and this is also how we channel. So a lot of times you'll see like the movie actors, and they'll get into their persona or their character. Now, what they're actually doing is they're going into the heart chakra, because this is where all of the personality cubes are located, is all in the heart. So whenever we see the personality grid, have you guys ever like gone and hung out with different groups of friends? And so, you may act a certain way around certain friends. You may be more business professional around another group of friends, or then you may have your home base, like your husband and your kids, and you just completely let down your guard. And so when we do this, what we're doing is we're activating different aspects of the personality grid complex. And so this is a real thing. Now, any type of channeling, we can coax down a tiny little fractalized piece of light from someone else's higher self. No, you do not have to ask permission, because if the higher self doesn't want to make contact and communication with you, they won't allow this to happen. So what this looks like is you're pulling it down. It actually goes down your center tube, your center Kundalini channel, the star people are saying. And so it lands right inside your personality grid complex. We start to do this by doing it through meditation. However, some people this happens naturally to. This happened to me in 2019. I was doing it. What it feels like is it just feels like you're with the person, or their essence is with you. So if you guys have ever had a loved one who passed away, then all of a sudden you may feel them. You may smell their cologne or perfume. You may smell their flowers that they loved. You may just feel them as if they are with you. That is because a tiny piece of their higher self fractalized down and tuned into your personality grid. Now, when we start to utilize your thought grid, which is how we think, but we can also summon information. So we want to go into that personality grid, feel the person that you are trying to communicate with, and start asking the voice inside your mind questions. And just listen. All of the answers that you are going to receive back while you feel that person around you, all of that knowledge that you have going inside the mind, that's all going to be encoded with their personality grid complex. Now, of course, your body and your energetics are stronger than any other one that you are channeling. So if you ever start channeling someone who is not of love and light, it is okay. You can discharge them immediately. You could tell them, thank you, discharge. And they will have to leave your body. They will have to leave your energetics immediately. However, when we start to do this for like your ancestors, you can also pull power from the ancestral realm. The star people are saying right now what that looks like. Imagine for 1 second, we always speak about ancestral karma as if it is in the sense that it is something that is going to happen to you. It is encoded inside your DNA subsystems. And so karma is not only a negative thing, it's also a positive thing. Because when you put good things out into the world, that good is always going to come back at you. So now just imagine for one moment, let's say your great grandmother, let's say she crossed America in one of those, the wheelbarrows with the horses, and she took her strength and she changed her tire and she did what she had to do and she survived off the land. She was tougher than nails. All of that information is encoded in your DNA. So if you've ever had like a witchy grandparent or someone who channels or was into psychic abilities, all of that information is also encoded into your DNA. So now it's just a matter of, can you access it? Yes, you can. I'm telling you, you can. I know this to be a fact. So when you start to dive in, you can also go into either your personality grid complex, or you could just visualize your DNA and tell your DNA, show me where my ancestors had extrasensory abilities. Show them to me and reactivate them inside of me. Now, your conscious mind is going to start to flip on the epigenetics, which are going to make these things come into your world. This also acts like a manifestation, but it's much easier. So if you were born with advanced intuition, you can enhance it even further by going into your DNA and activating the genome. You can do this on your own. You could do this while riding in a bus. You could do this while driving in a car. You could do this anytime you see fit, just by having that secondary conversation with your body. Now, the process of evolution is very important because we're taking our perspective and we're pulling ourselves back. So I am not Danielle Lipton. I am the light body that makes up my higher self, watching Danielle Lipton have the experience that she is having. That is a perception. That is how we evolve as well. Because you're taking yourself from this physical body and you're pulling yourself back ever so tiny bit, not to the degree in which you were crazy, but now you're just observing all of the thoughts that are running, all of the emotions that are running. If someone is yelling at you, you're sitting over here and you're like, how does that make you feel? Why are you having this experience? Why did you manifest this experience? Is this a cycle repeat? Was this something that you needed to learn from? So you're asking yourself a ton of questions about each experience and trying to dissect it. This is part of activating your psionic abilities. You have to be aware of who you truly are. Why do you react the way you react? What traumas are you holding inside of your physical body? We always get to a point or a degree in which we think we've healed everything, and then there's more, which is okay too. Many times when we start to pull ourselves back and we party perception of our life, it allows us to see, oh, okay, wait a minute. Well, I'm doing that. And that's a trauma response. So check, now I'm going to heal that one. And you keep a pen and paper. It's really, everyone has to keep a pen and paper. And I don't like telling people what they have to do, but you really have to, because when you start breaking it down microsecond by microsecond, this is my behavior pattern in this moment. This is what I do. This is the outcome. I keep doing it over and over again. Write it down, because chances are you're going to forget it. Now, when you have a list and you start looking at it, you're like, oh, okay, it's a micro behavior pattern. It's something that's ever so small that I would never place conscious focus and attention on. But yet, for some reason, my third party perspective picked onto it. Now I'm going to heal it. Now I'm going to be consciously aware. And you can even make an action button. So the action button is, thank you, heart, for beating a little bit louder so I can feel when I'm doing this behavior pattern. Your heart will notify you of things too. Your heart can also activate the goosebumps. Goosebumps and the hair standing up is controlled by the plasma in your body, which is also controlled by memory grid abilities. So Mother Earth also has plasma inside of her. There's different type of plasma balls that actually rise up out of the earth. Sometimes we can see them, sometimes we can't. That's okay too. However, it's part of her memory grid and it's tuned in. When we start to develop our memory grid complex ability with Mother Earth, it's going to allow us access into all time and space that Mother Earth has also experienced. Now, that doesn't just include what Mother Earth has experienced. It's what Mother Earth has experienced in this solar system. So if she has seen different things happening in the solar system, it's in her energetic grids, because there is a type of planetary energetic bonding that also takes place. So if, for example, if there was a catastrophe that happened in one of the planets, which broke apart the planet and then generated an asteroid belt, she might potentially have all the information pertaining to that experience. So dive in deep, go talk to Mother Earth, and you can actually take your consciousness and you can place your consciousness in the crystalline core of Mother Earth, and you can ask her ever so gently, because she is your mother and she loves you, just gently ask her for the information, and always have respect, because sometimes maybe you're not ready for certain information. And so maybe she won't give it to you because she senses that your energetic might not be fully there yet. Somebody watching this is going to do this. And so the star people are saying, someone's not ready for the information. When they go to do it, don't stop, because you're going to fine tune your energetics, and then she's going to give you the information that you want to see. So that's wonderful. Hi, DL. Do we mostly want to focus on reprogramming the energetic grid when there's trauma or a bad memory, or do you recommend we recode even with happy memories? Yes, you can reprogram all of the negative memories into happy. And so you don't actually have to change the memory, the star people are saying, because for you personally, it might be too much to change the memory. You might feel like it's false because you're like, okay, well, I was there, I experienced it, so how can I change it? If you come at it from that angle, then changing the actual memory is going to be difficult. But what you can do is you can re-encode your emotion. So for you personally, Mel Ant, they're telling us re-encode the emotion. So allow your perception to see the trauma and hold love. And so, okay, this happened and I hold love and compassion for myself. This happened and I hold love and compassion. Open your heart and feel it. If you're watching the trauma and you're getting triggered into fear, you have to release the fear first. And so it's hard to hold love when your body is shaking and trembling and you're like, God, I was there, it was horrible, right? Those are all emotions. So the second that we discharge the emotions, we hold neutrality. That's actually the next step in healing, is to hold the space in neutrality. After we can hold neutrality, we can watch the entire memory as we see fit. And then all of a sudden, we start to open the heart and hold compassion. And so just think about it this way. Anytime we've ever had darkness, we went through 3D school, Earth, right? And we had all this darkness that each and every one of us had to go through before spiritually awakening to any degree. And so what happened is we got the call to do the shadow work. And so we had to take our darkness and we had to encode it with light. Before you do this, there's a moment of neutrality in between where you had to be okay. You had to be okay in order to shine the light, in order to heal it. You had to forgive. Forgiveness is a big thing too, because anytime you had an argument or a war with your friends or something happened, you have to come into neutrality first. Forgiveness is a frequency bandwidth of neutrality. So you have to be okay. Okay, you know what? And even to some degree, I did this one. Okay, they're just player characters and they're giving me an experience that I needed for me to personally evolve. And so when you come at it from that perspective, it's like, okay, so it doesn't mean that you're right, because what you did was very wrong to me. However, I'm going to hold space. I'm going to come back to neutrality, and then I'm going to send myself compassion. And then I'm also going to send them compassion. And all the other people who had to watch this nonsense, I'm going to send everyone compassion and love and light to heal the entire experiential. The experientials are key, because when we start to go inside of our psyche and we start to heal all these traumas and experiences that we had, we have to heal 144 of them. When we heal 144, it unlocks different energetic nodes, which then in turn allows us to raise our frequency, our biological frequency, and then it allows us to tap into 5D frequency waves. So that's how you slam dunk it into 5D. You have to go through, you have to do the shadow work. The shadow work can be ugly. The shadow work can be horrible. Not only that, your birth was the beginning of your shadow work, because we are always born in some sort of trauma into the physical reality. It's like that fall into earth. You don't feel any pain, you don't feel pain, and then wham, you feel pain at the moment of birth, and that imprints you and it allows you into the 3D realm. I just saw, I think, a fairy orb or something. I don't know if you guys saw it over there. I saw it. So we're going to rewind at 3434 synchronicity and see if we can see it again. Yeah, sometimes the orbs come. It's amazing. Okay, let's see. Okay, psionic abilities and energetic bonding into crystals. Now, this is very, very important because there's a lot of psionic abilities where utilizing a crystal can amplify your energetics. And actually, I was just talking about this today to one of my friends. When we utilize certain crystals, it can amplify the energetics, which then in turn allows you to enhance the psionic abilities. So, for example, let's say you wanted to project your chi energetic system. See, sometimes when people's energetic grids are off balance, there's some people out there who can generate the chi energy, and they can like zap you with electricity, like real. I've done it before in a spiritual shop. Now, once again, all of these gifts and abilities, they take a very high emotion, and so or they often start or happen when like you're falling. And so I was falling, and like as I'm falling, I tripped over something. I touched the guy on his shoulder, and he felt an electrical spark go throughout his entire body. And then he jumped, and he was like, "What the hell is that?" So it's fun and it's amazing, but you have to really embody a very high emotional frequency. Now we want to try and do it in love. So you have to try and get a very high emotion of love, joy, bliss, excitement. When we start to tune into that high frequency range, it will also allow instantaneous manifestation of items to come to us. That's all items. And not only that, but it also puts you in a divine alignment so that you're always in the right place at the right time in order to perceive or witness your highest and best potential. So if there's going to be a war, the universe will prompt you to move. And you'll get up and you'll go sit by the beach, and then everyone will have the war. And then you'll get a nice coffee and come back, and then the war's over. That's how this works. It's real. I've seen it. It's true. Okay. Psionic abilities can also be cast into the crystals. Now, this is very important because this is part of what I do for the crystal package program. I take my crystals and I project different thoughts, images, emotions. The star people also do DNA activations into all the crystals and the crystal packages. And so, but we have Andara crystals too, which are amazing, different colors. Now, when we start to really go in and we start to program, we can program instantaneous manifestation abilities in here. We can fine tune for different psionic abilities. Now, the attunements to different abilities, I want each and every one of you guys to realize there's 365 human extrasensory abilities each and every one of us can tune into. An attunement just means that in your energetics, you are attuned to unlock that one first. That doesn't mean that that's the end of the line for you. That just means that's the first one that you're going to unlock. Or the star people are even correcting. They're saying that's the first one that you can unlock the easiest, if you so choose to put your focus and attention on it. So some people get called to do things like manipulate matter, maybe even move tinfoil with your mind or bend spoons. We had one lady who actually, she did a session with the star people, and the star people told her to start bending spoons. I was worried, right? And then all of a sudden she comes back and she's like, she's bent 5. So like I've seen it over and over again. They're always right. Always right. Now, when you start to focus and place attention, the time ability is wild too, by the way, because we've all experienced it. So right off the bat, we've all experienced some sort of time dilation. When you're really happy, time flies. When you're really sad, time goes slow. That's it. That ability is very simple. So now how do you control your emotions? You get really happy, time flies. So when you wake up in the morning and then all of a sudden you blink and it's 7 o'clock in the afternoon, you know you're holding a really high frequency. That doesn't mean that the universe is not going to cycle you back down, though, because there's different solar energetics as well as different cycles that we all go through as a collective consciousness. And so the way the star people describe this is 1 week is a spiritual week. So you're riding high. Everything you need comes to you. The next week, you're focused on the physical. So that physical week, you're washing your car, you're paying your bills, you're doing X, Y, and Z in the life, washing your laundry, all the stuff. It's physically focused. And then you go through this process up and down, up and down. Now, the traumas come into place with different zodiac alignments, as well as different solar energetics pulse the way that this goes. So think about it scientifically. Sometimes you need to get pulsed in the spiritual week with certain solar energies because it's going to change things. But then if you're in a physical state and you get pulsed, it's going to change things. Not it could make things easier. If it's like a full moon, full moons actually pulse the energetic grids to remove density, which is the reason why people end up going crazy during a full moon. It's actually because all the negativity that's on them needs to be washed off. So the full moon, it's affecting the emotion grid, which is also affecting the tides, the oceans on the planet. Your water, salt water in the body controls the emotions. You cry salt. So it's all connected because it's all a reflection of your frequency reflected out into the physical world. But there's only one consciousness here. And so even though we have multiple soul forms here, there's one primary consciousness that wants to have all the experiences together as a collective. So there is a guiding energetic that's guiding all of us. Because when you open your eyes in the morning, what year are you in? So who decided that one? Right? Like, these are all questions that I ask myself. Like, who decided this, right? We're here. Why are we at the brink of evolution right now? Why is the sun heating up to the degree in which it's going to pop? And why is it going to? And so all the questions the star people over the past couple of years, they turned into posts. And so now all of a sudden it's turning into a book because all the posts are put together. I just need to get it edited. So was there an energy pulse when the 5 planets were aligned a couple nights ago? Yes, there is always energetic pulses or different solar energy alignments that hit our planet when things are in straight lines. Not only that, but there's sidereal time. And so sidereal time is when all the planets are in a row, and then the frequency that comes and hits a human being, it actually activates your psionic abilities, is what the star people are saying. Yes, I can't wait to get the book out. Like, I put it all together. I spaced it correctly. I just need someone to read it and edit it. And I don't know. It's coming though. I might just pay a company. I just don't know. Okay, so cycle repeats. Cycle repeats are very important because when we start to go through the process of, let's say we do the shadow work and the shadow work shows us, okay, well, we've had this experience and it happened over and over and over again and again and again. That's a cycle repeat. The cycle repeats are a little bit tricky because sometimes they'll happen and it'll be like 6 years later, it happened again. And then it's another 6 years later, it happened again. So if you're not focused on it, you wouldn't catch the cycle repeat. Now, I have a cycle repeat that just came up. It actually just came up yesterday. And so when I was a kid, we had a pizzeria called Joe's Pizzeria. When I moved to that was in New York. When I moved to Pennsylvania, right around my block here, we had Joe's Pizzeria. And then we had another Joe's Pizzeria up on the other side of town. It was 20 minutes away from here. Now, when I was a kid, Joe's Pizzeria closed down. And all of us neighborhood kids, we were all sad and upset. It was like the end of the world because that was our hangout spot. We used to go make the pizza boxes. So we got upset. So what happened? Joe's Pizzeria here now as an adult just closed down. So we got upset. And so then we go 20 minutes away from the house and now we just noticed Joe's Pizzeria closed down again. So for me in my reality, I'm like, oh, that's a cycle repeat. So now what I do, because now I'm consciously focused and I'm aware, oh, okay, that's still a cycle repeat. So we want to handle it. We want to cross cancel it. So we sink back into neutral. It's okay if Joe's Pizzeria closed. It's not going to hurt me anymore. It's okay for it to have the experience. I also do this for all the people too. It's okay to release all of the people in the holographic simulation and let them have their own experience. I am okay with it. It cuts the energetic cords and it stops the type of energy projecting, especially if there are any sort of negativity happening. And many times when you reach a high brick of consciousness, it feels uncomfortable to be around people who are not of the same mentality as you. We know this subconsciously because the computer geeks, they always hang with the computer geeks, the scientists hang with the scientists. When the scientists come home for Christmas dinner, right, they got nothing to talk about. This is normal human patterns and behaviors. This is just the way the frequency works and how energetic bondings work. So it's okay to release any and all people, places, and things in the simulation. So you're cutting all the cords and you're just being at peace. You're holding a neutrality with it. You actually raise the frequency or the potential for all those people to raise their consciousness when you release them. It's the hardest thing to do, especially if you have a husband. And so many people that I see in my sessions, they have husbands. They're not going to release resistance because that's their husband. And so it's like you have to do it in meditation. Just imagine releasing and just be at okay or at peace if they don't awaken. It's okay. And the second that you release resistance and you're like, it's fine. Because when they're around, if you love them, you'll talk about something else and you'll still be in love. But the second that you release the resistance, that's a wrap. They usually start to wake up if it's in divine alignment for their highest and best. The star people are saying. Yeah, we were so stoked on that pizzeria. It was only because it was a hangout spot. So we, in high school, we were kids. We had nowhere to go. It was 3 blocks. We could walk there. Yeah. That's what I was thinking, too. The book will fall into place when it's meant to be. And it will just, because for a while I beat myself up and I was like, oh, I know all this information should just be in the book already. And, and you're just like, damn, I don't feel like writing. I'm going to go out and walk in the sunshine. And so it was one of those. And then it just little by little, I started telling myself, oh, the book is already written. And so I started saying that over and over again. And then I went through this healing with the last retrograde. And the second I was not even done healing, it was like day 2 or 3. And I was like, wham, I sat down behind a computer and I put all the posts into a book. And I was like, wow, it was already written. So that manifestation came to light for all of us. Because the whole point of the book is really for you guys, because you guys were the ones that were like, we're having a hard time reading all the posts because it's like a mile down Facebook land. So we got to put in a book so it's easier. I would like to make it into an ebook too, so that you guys have access to all the posts. The posts are really amazing because anytime I feel lost or confused, like I just open it and I read 1 or 2 posts. I'm like, oh, okay, that's right. Okay, this is we're 100% here, magical beings, right? And so I read all the information that the star people have given, and it's like, yeah, we can do this, right? And then it makes us go outside and change the weather again, and bring the sunshine, and bust the chemtrails. All of these things are real, and just imagine what's going to happen when we all come together in a group and start practicing them together. Right. So we actually just did a manifestation at one of my friends' house where we did a manifestation so that no negative extraterrestrial race can land or be on Earth. And so we all sat around. We were like, amen. Usa, usa, usa. Thank you, universe. Thank you, the star people, for protecting us against negative extraterrestrial beings. I know it worked because I know it. I could feel it. And so you guys can say it too. This way it makes the manifestation bigger. It's more fun. Okay, weird question. Does the work clock have any deeper meaning? Oh, yes, it does. I guess I'm drawn to the word lock in clock. Yes. Well, that's exactly what that is, right? Because it keeps you staring at how you have to spend your time. And before you know it, 8 hours a day is way too much to be working in any job. That's a solid fact. Because by the time you drive home, God forbid your drive time is an hour, that's 10 hours out of your day. When are you going to wash your laundry? When are you going to have fun? When are you going to feed yourself? There's no interaction time. When are you going to meet your neighbors? And when I was a child growing up, I knew all my neighbors. All my neighbors helped raise me. I used to know every single one of them down the block. Now, these days, everyone's always at work. So you never really see your neighbors. You never really interact. Nobody has, on the weekends, we would have the block party and block it off, and everyone barbecued or brought plates, right? And so we were more social together as a planet because we knew each other. And, you can't mess with them. You mess with them, you have to mess with all of us. That's our New York, right? And so, that was it. But they really did quite a job dividing and conquering. However, now, instead of seeing things like block parties, you see us coming together online. And so TikTok is one example of that because I see the spiritual people on TikTok and it's like they all tend to stand up for one another just because of the fact that they're all talking about spiritual topics. So it's brought a type of unity online to people. Whereas now we can look at the polarity, positive and negative, from any experience. And so how many years have we looked at online and we're like, it's so negative, like the people online are negative. And now we're finally starting to see the positivity and joining groups and collectives together. So in time, I would love to be doing private retreats, coming somewhere and allowing you guys to show up and doing healing retreats and all sorts of manifestations and all of that stuff. And then even attachment removals would be wonderful too, if people are up for it, though. I don't want to push anyone into it. But attachment removals are really key. Now, we spent 2 days in Dorney Park this week because I literally live 15 minutes from Dorney Park. And so when I came home, I had so many attachments on me just from being in the environment. I didn't know this until the next morning because the star people did a clearing and they were like, you're covered in them. So I went back the next day anyway. Like, we have to learn to overcome these things. And so we can't have any fear. We have to just dive right in and clear them off. And then we keep on keeping on raising our frequency. That's what we do. We should hold no fear to any of this. So, but it's an eye opener. So if people come to retreats and stuff, we start to really dive in deep, release the attachments. But it's best to learn the modalities of how to clear yourself, because then it really enhances and it allows you to know who you truly are. So it's kind of like that third party perspective where you're pulling your consciousness back and you're looking at all your behavior patterns. You really want to observe everything in your physical reality. So, and question why. I've always been one of those people to question everything. And so why do I put my crystals like this on my windowsill? Why does that make me feel good? That's the next question. Why do I do it this way? Doesn't make me feel good. If it doesn't make me feel good, if it looks cluttered up, then right away we know, wipe down the whole counter, use vinegar if you can, because vinegar removes any negative energies out of your home, on the floors, the wall, everything. Put just a drop. Wipe it down and then put it in a way that feels good. And so you want to do that with your entire household. Now, some people have that gift naturally where they can just bippity boppity boo and the house is spotless. That's not me. But we take the time to do tiny little things. And every single day when you do a tiny thing, you're actually changing your patterns of behavior. So that's part of raising your frequency, because when your frequency is very high, even if you have a limited amount of time, your whole house will be spotless. And that it truly is a blessing to live like that. So, everything it falls into alignment for you, and you never really have to worry because you're always doing the tiny things and it goes very rapidly. So, yeah. Hot Springs is not the Earth node, beloved. What hot springs? I missed something. Oh, come do it here in the Hot Springs, Arkansas, where I live. I love hot springs. I've never been to one, but I love hot tubs, I should say. Yeah, that's wonderful. Mountain Valley water. Oh, send me a private message so I can just GPS it. I'm not a map person. Hot Springs, excellent. Okay, what else do we have? Okay, well, attachments, time glitches. Also, time glitches was on the list too. And ADD and superpowers. And so time glitches is basically tuning into that time ability that we all have. But sometimes you'll notice a glitch. When a glitch happens, it's kind of like you are holding a frequency that puts you in alignment with this parallel reality or this timeline. And then something glitched to give you a secondary moment to change your biological frequency to see if you were in alignment with a different one. So your higher self, it's kind of like your higher self is like, wait a minute, you don't want to pick that. So just imagine they hit the little red button, they like do it again. And then you glitch. Deja vus work the same exact way. Your higher self is always in control, whether or not you actually see any of the glitches. So with the timeline convergences, we've been seeing things left and right. So buildings shut down, new ones reappear, new old buildings I've seen reappear. And so we had a bakery. The bakery looks like it's 100 years old, and it just one day appeared along our walking path. And so it's a wild and amazing the things that I see in my life. And I have 2 kids. The kids don't lie because children they're 12 and they're 10. They're like, that was there. You're crazy, right? They're not going to lie about it. They were like, I've never seen that. So it's wild. Patterning, repeat, and allowing new energetics to re-encode the grid structures. Okay, you have to generate a nexus. So a nexus, just imagine when you start to see a time glitch, you always want to drop into the heart and hold that love-based emotion for as long as you can. Anytime you see time go slow, drop right into your heart. or even if your hearing goes very quiet, like you have that eerie sense, drop right into the heart space and just hold love and light and just do it for a good minute or two. Because when you're in a car wreck, time goes very slow. Time space seems to, right? And your hearing and everything goes super slow. That's actually a void sense before any type of fight. That'll happen too, because it's a trauma. There has to be that lowering of the frequency in order to allow all people in that current location space to experience whatever's coming. Now, the funny thing about it is when a light worker walks around and they're super high frequency, that void, that negative frequency range that happens in the location that allows that trauma to happen, it raises the location frequency, and so that trauma never comes unless that high frequency person walks out of the frame. Just imagine it's a holographic simulation. They walk out of the picture screen. The second they walk out, it allows that location to drop in frequency and it allows trauma to manifest. That's how divine alignment works. Each and every one of us, we are that light worker, every human being. The second you become consciously awake and aware is the second you're raising your frequency, doing the shadow work. So it puts you in that divine alignment. So whenever you guys start to notice something negative is coming or your spider senses fire up, drop right into the heart and just focus on raising your biological frequency. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter who's watching you do this. If you get that sense inside of you, just drop right into the heart. You could do it with your eyes open. You could just imagine and visualize a connection between the heart and the mind. You should also try and do it with the solar plexus because it generates this type of 3 that comes in the body. You need all 3 chakras involved to make really big manifestations. So I would definitely use all 3. We moved a bureau from a different room, and the rooms where they are is completely different energy. Yes. So actually, feng shui shows us how the energetics in the house can change our entire life, which is wild and amazing too. Because when we start playing with things like underneath your bed should have 0. You should have 0 things. There should be nothing underneath the bed. We've always been taught to throw everything underneath the bed. You should have 0. And then if you can do like a crystal grid, you should try and do whatever crystal grid, even if it's for abundance or health, because you go put it under your bed. And then all of a sudden, just because you put a crystal grid up, your health starts to shift. It starts to change. So that's why I was telling you guys, if the crystals on the windowsill, if that doesn't feel comfortable, do what makes you feel comfortable because it's going to change your energetics. Right. And so I actually came up with this brilliant idea. I say brilliant because I'm waiting for one of you guys to copy it and go make me one and send it to me. But just imagine a meditation shawl. So it can either be like a blanket you put your head through, and then it has little pockets all over it so you can put your crystals in. I should just tell Sunshine. She'll make it for me. And so make something like that so that when you're meditating, you can throw this hoodie on and it has all your crystals so your crystals don't go all over the place. So let's say you go to like a meditation on the beach or something and you don't want to lug around your crystals, but you want to have them with you. So a little zipper pocket so you can put them in. You can even do regular flat blankets. So when you're making, you can lay down and have all your crystals so that your crystals don't like fall off the bed and crack onto the wood floor. Right? Genius. Now, not only that, anybody who does Reiki, because I'm a big fan of palm stones now. This is totally my thing. So if we can get some type of glove to hold the palm stone, so as we're doing the Reiki, it can hold the crystal and we don't have to hold it like this that would be wild and amazing too. These are $1 million ideas. Jilly, make it and then go patent it and go put it out for the world because people need it. So to me, I think that would be amazing. Excellent. So we are doing the Shadow Work Zoom tonight at 8:30. So anybody who wants to come tonight, just send me a message and then I will send you the complimentary Zoom link. So perfect. Thank you for coming. Excellent. Excellent. I think they're wonderful. Let me see. Yeah. So come to the Shadow Work meeting. We're going to take a half-hour break and then we'll start up the Zoom. Excellent. You guys have, okay. Scott, make it too. You can send me one too. Yeah, everything. I like ponchos. So either like a button-up one or something I could just throw my head in and I could just sit there and chill and meditate on the beach. That would be perfect. So it's wonderful. Anyone who has any questions, just send them in to daniellelipton.com. We'll take the questions. I write it down and then I put it all online for you guys to see. anyone who is interested in having a private session, I also do private sessions. They are at daniellipton.com. So the private sessions I offer are different ascension sessions. So this type of information pertaining to what the star people want you to know, as well as any attunements to extrasensory gifts, and your star family always shows up. That's the ascension session. And then I also now offer attachment release sessions. The attachment release sessions, they normally go for an hour to 2. I don't stop once we start. So I let the person get it all out of them. It's always in their highest and best interest. Those I do on Mondays and Wednesdays. And so those are very interesting because it's kind of like a clean house. So just imagine that you're cleaning your house from top to bottom. That's how we do to the emotion grid. So it is a very deep release. And a lot of times the people say it's a very clean, energetic feeling once they're done. So those things I do offer. I also offer regular chakra healing sessions. So those are up there too, regular healing sessions. We dive into each one of the chakras and we rebalance and recode them. And then we add positive affirmations and all sorts of magical stuff. Yes. Link to the next session. What is the crystal for love and commitment relationship? So commitment relationship, I don't believe that has a crystal, but the love crystal is always going to be rose quartz and a diamond. And so we know this though, because a diamond always symbolizes love. There is actually a biological reason that we wear it on the ring finger. And so the ring finger, the diamond going there, it actually makes a woman energetic, powerful. There's a reason why they're on the left finger too, because that's the feminine energetics. So perfect. Link to the next session. So my live streams are Tuesdays and Thursdays, 7 p.m. across all platforms. It's all linked together. And then the shadow work is always at 8:30. Yeah, 8:30. So we got 20 minutes. Okay. Yeah. So just send me a message. You can send an email through daniellipton.com, the website, and then I'll just send you the links that you guys need. Excellent. You have many, many love and blessings. You guys have a wonderful night.